I remember when Toycat was the first to discover that if you stood on one block in the Nether and just flew up, the biomes changed, and he suspected that we were going to have new Y-level dependent biomes right after the Nether update came out. Dude called the Caves and Cliffs update before it was even coded, let alone announced. I bring this up not just to flatter myself, but also to remind you that many Minecraft features, including the copper golem statues, actually have the technical side added before they can bring the main feature to the game, and this is why it's so important to bring up last Sunday's video and all of the technical features in Minecraft right now, but also the new ones that came in last Tuesday's preview, because they have just added some new support for creators to take advantage of the offhand component. And what could that possibly mean? Dual wielding parity is perhaps the biggest feature that gets Bedrock players excited, and in today's video I'm going to answer questions about that alongside everything else, because it's Q&A Saturday, the weekly series where I answer your questions about life, the universe, Minecraft updates, and everything in between. But of course we're going to come straight back into the offhand, because I have a question in one hand and some evidence in the other, and so That asks, if they add more usability for the offhand, would they also want to move the rest of the combat update over to Bedrock? No? Well, simply put, if we look at the evidence, we only have one creator set of features regarding the combat update. That doesn't seem too compelling by itself, but we have always known that Mojang want to bring new combat to Bedrock and dual wielding to Bedrock. This is part of the idea of parity, but what they have said is the new combat more broadly, the slow cooldowns and stuff like that, is something they're not going to bring in its current Java form, but instead they're working on brand new combat snapshots. It's in phase 2 of development, and we haven't heard anything about it in 5 years, so either it's like vibrant visuals, or as it was known previously, deferred rendering, or even older than that, you could say super duper graphics. Either it's an example of something like that, where they've been working on it for a very long time, and they're almost ready to get it out to the public, or it's a situation where it's taken so many years, and it's not going anywhere, and so rather than waiting for the new combat to bring dual wielding to Bedrock, instead they're going to bring dual wielding to Bedrock as part of a brand new drop. This is what they did last year with Hardcore, and that made many Bedrock players excited, and so are they going to bring offhand this year without new combat? Well, we can't say for sure whether it's going to come with or without the new combat, but if you're curious, when is dual wielding going to come to the game, we can make an informed estimate based on the other technical features which were added to the game code before their features were announced and before those come to the game. So let's use the simple example of the Happy Ghast. They added the ability to have flying rideable mobs in February as a custom component for things like bees, and then in June of this year you had the ability to have the Happy Ghast. In the case of these copper golem statue changes, they were brought in June, and then we'll probably see them in the end game in September, so it could be as soon as 3 to 4 months. But to go back to that intro example, the Nether update released in 2020, June to be precise, but it wasn't until the second half of 2021 that we got the Caves and Cliffs update, Part 2, that had the actual Caves and Cliffs in it, and so it can be a very long time, especially for features that are quite challenging to add, and so keep that in mind. Speaking of challenging features to add, Joshua Mueller says, 3206, says, is there an option in Minecraft to show me what song is playing? I remember seeing Toycat mention something about it on a changelog for Chase the Skies, but I've been unable to find it on console. So I remember when they first announced that there were going to be these music toasts that would tell you what song is playing and you could change the frequency, it was music to my ears, and then they said, oh yeah, this is for Java only, like many a great feature, and that was the, I don't know, the creeper hiss to my jukebox. That was the nails to my chalkboard. I absolutely hated to hear that, and indeed, this long later, we still don't have subtitles, we still don't have music toasts. There are lots of just fun UI changes that they find very tricky to add to Bedrock, and I don't know why that is one of them, but we do know it is. Speaking of Bedrock versus Java, by the way, did you know the Java team is still on their holiday break? We expect it to end next week, next Tuesday. I would suspect that we will be seeing snapshots publicly releasing, but Hannah Joy's 9065 makes a really interesting point, which is imagine how detrimental a 4-week consecutive break would do to any YouTube channel. Indeed, this is something that has been tested many a time. There is always a huge loss in the number of people who even remember a channel exists, because YouTube and basically every other social media platform kind of relies on having that consistent stream of content. If your favorite YouTuber doesn't upload in a given day or week or whatever the schedule is, it's not going to tell you they didn't upload. Instead, it will just give you another video from another channel instead, and so it kind of encourages this idea that, like, yeah, you kind of forget about YouTubers after a while, which is something that means that, yeah, you don't just get to take a 4-week break as a YouTuber. It does sound fun though. Like, it sounds like one of the fun quirks of being employed is that, yeah, you just get, if you're in Sweden, you get 4 weeks off. That sounds like a lot of fun if you don't consider the wider implications, and I would love to not consider the wider implications, but I would also love to consider Faderland's idea, because they say they'll probably use the shelf for decor and not its function, but but it's a good block anyway. And I want to, you know, can I take 10 seconds to just say, so many people said, wow, it's clickbait Toycat to call this a building block. And it's like, yeah, I know that for some people it's going to be usable. I'm going to be one of those. But for many people, blocks like this just become building. And that to me is the key behind a great Minecraft feature. So many people say they don't mind mobs being added to the game that are entirely useless, but actually you do mind if you don't want a useless mob. And this is why when they add a new block to the game, instead of just adding a new palette where it brings no new function, this is genius because it's 10 new blocks, all of which provide a brand new form, which is just like adding a new palette, but also which provide a valuable functionality. And the fact that we've seen so many creative builds of it is the genius of Minecraft, in my opinion. People who keep saying that we just need to have another block palette so that they can make their slightly grey builds in slightly different grey tones, they're missing the point of what Minecraft is meant to be. Creativity does not mean having a block for every colour, it does not mean having a stair slab for every colour, and although I would love to see calcite stairs or whatever else, I personally think this is a way better addition. But do you know what else I think? I think it's crazy that 3 years ago I mentioned Wordle in a video, and I got so many of these comments saying, I didn't know what Wordle was till you mentioned it, and so I love that now everyone's kind of over Wordle, but there's so many versions of it, like Minecraftle, and I wanted to mention this in bits this week, but it's just a fun thing. It's like, the challenge is, how fast can you craft something? I would argue this has nothing to do with Wordle, but I also think it's a lot of fun. 3.84 seconds. How fast can I make a beehive? I hope this is how you make a beehive. I think it's in the middle there, but no, you gotta make this into planks first. So make a bunch of planks, use the planks down there and there, and I hope that that's a beehive. Yes, it is. 12 seconds. We can do faster, though. So stained glass around the outside. Oh, no, I did that wrong. Oh, no. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, can you beat 3 seconds? That's my challenge. It's very fun, though, Minecraft. It's a new thing if you feel like playing it. But do you know what else I feel like playing? This comment, which came in quite interestingly from Lou Slater, who says, Toycat turned 30 and seems reinvigorated and appreciative. Love you, Toycat. First of all, thank you. That's a nice comment. But second of all, I do want to say that it really is one of the simplest life hacks or rules to make your life better, that if you're just appreciative for things, you'll enjoy your life so much more. So much of what we do instinctively is we compare ourselves to people who are better than us at anything we do. You'll find this if you ever get into a new hobby, and you'll find this about life in general. Like, it's so easy to just focus on people who are above you, but it's sometimes hard to remember that, like, whoa, you have all sorts of things that maybe other people would love. I thought recently that I have an aunt who's turning 40. She invited me to a birthday party at a restaurant that I assume she must like, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. She's going to show me a thing, one of her passions, and I get to have that, and I get to appreciate her and give her a gift or something. It's something that I think is, like, actually quite nice. You wouldn't think about it. You'd think of it as, like, a chore and obligation, but actually it's cool that you have something like that, and I think that life is filled with these little moments that it's easy to just think of as standard, but are actually things you should be appreciative for. And speaking of being appreciative, I'm going to go to the appreciation place for this next question.
That's right, I'm at the airport. I said I was going away for the weekend, and, you know, this is my favourite place to be. Honestly, my happy place in many separate ways. But I do get a lot of comments saying, look how many people are staring in the background. This was on my recent update video that I recorded in the Amsterdam airport, and it's very funny. You can look in the background. There are all sorts of people I can see looking back that I didn't notice at the time, and that is weird to many people. Like, to many people, it's the sort of thing that you'd be focusing on exclusively. Like, oh god, there are so many people staring at you, Toycat. But actually, the way I see it is like, yeah, any one detail in your life can be absolutely terrifying, horrifying, if it is the only thing that you focus on. But, you know, that's what anxiety can be, right? The anxiety can be, you know, hyper-focusing on one detail to the loss of everything else in your life. But there's a lot of things going on, and as much as you want to be, as much as it's easy to get absorbed by one detail, anytime that you do, you'll neglect everything else. And speaking of neglecting everything else, I had a really fun, so obviously, while I'm away for this weekend, I'm not streaming. It's a bummer, because I'm really enjoying RL Craft. Not going so well for me right now in the background, right? But as much as I've got to say that is true, it's interesting because I got this comment saying ending a stream with Toycat is like ending a phone call with my mother, and very true, right? I do treat streams very differently to most people, where they're like, you know, they're treating it as like, oh yeah, this is you're going to be like very official, and it's very like, this is a form of entertainment, and you are here to, you know, like the, you know, there's lots of like generic things that people do. I think I do very differently. I kind of just like treat it as like, yeah, let's hang out, let's you know, a long video sort of thing. Like, it's some of my favorite times, and so then when I get to the end of it, I'm like, you know, I was enjoying this, I don't want to go. No, you hang up sort of thing. And I know that sounds weird to people, but I mean, I guess honestly, a lot of things sound weird to a lot of people. Speaking of sounding weird, I got this comment suggesting that why does Minecraft even support touchscreens? They should just drop support, because who wants to play Minecraft on a tiny phone with their thumbs anyway? Especially for dual wielding, it doesn't make any sense to hold it back. This is a really, really, really interesting comment to me, because it just reminds me, if you play Bedrock on a console, which a lot of the people subscribe do, I think it's worth saying, like, yeah, there is obviously a huge delta in the experience between playing on a controller and playing on a phone, and it seems wild that there are any number of people who choose to play on a touchscreen if you're not used to that as your default. But I think it's worth reminding ourselves that lots of people do only have a phone as their primary, gaming platform, and in the same way that there are lots of PC elitists that will snub their nose at console people like, don't they have a spreadsheet machine they could be playing this on instead? I think it's also worth doing the exact same, like a reminder that, like, yeah, you can say that the phone is just a dumb device for doom scrolling and algorithms and, maybe the occasional text message or whatever. But as much as you can say that, it's like, yeah, actually, for a lot of people, this is the best way to play games. And for a lot of people, it's a really fun way to do precisely that as well. And so I would say this is a interesting idea on the surface, but actually there's not only a really bad social reason, but also, obviously, it's Mojang. It is a giant, Microsoft. There is a giant number of players that they can't just stop supporting, and even if they just remove one major feature, making Minecraft the same across mobile, PC, and Xbox TVs, fridges, that was the big vision behind Bedrock, and so to lose it just for a single combat feature, not very likely, am I right? Speaking of not very likely, my flight was delayed, but I'm still going to go head to the gate now. Whee! That's my contribution to the moving walkway. Love being on an empty plane. It looks like it's going to be a long flight, by the way. 24 hours remaining. Okay, guess what country I just landed in? Is this guy going to tell you for me? Tell me the country. Oh, look at this guy too. What's the name of the country? Just say it for me. Just tell me where I am. I need it for the video. If that hint was somehow not enough, well, here is Pacific Central, because I'm in Canada, Pacific Canada to be precise. I'm in Vancouver. I'm actually excited to go to Whistler, but in the summer. A lot of British tourists go to the Canadian Rockies for skiing and winter activities, because they're beautiful. But what's interesting is you can actually go during the summer, and they do the same ski hills and stuff, but it's bikes. So this is the biggest mountain bike park in the world, and the idea of like going down silly trails and stuff sounds like a lot of fun to me. So that's what I'm doing for this particular trip. But speaking of this particular trip, I haven't answered a question on Q&A Saturday in a good second, and so this person says this update should be called the off-the-shelf update because it's got copper golems, which have come off the shelf, and literal shelves, which is a really fun idea, actually. I like this one a lot. I feel like off-the-shelf is the perfect way to describe a lot of what Mojang have been doing over the last few years. It felt like Caves and Cliffs really knocked them off their game for a bit, and it felt like they were playing catch-up for so long, and now they're playing catch-up in ways that we weren't even expecting them to, but in ways that are actually quite cool. And now, again, at the same time as doing that, they are still getting cool, unique ideas out there, which is why I like the off-the-shelf update, and also why, in response to this last question today, this person, I can't work out if they're being sarcastic. It's not going to concern me right now, though, but they say that Mojang are finally starting to listen, and I really do feel that. Like, for years we would have this thing where, like, the most common request, like, whether it be, like, fix Minecraft so you can actually pause the game or whatever, the most basic requests would just be simply ignored, or at least go to the bottom of the priority pile and not have anything going on with it. But now we actually seem to have a world where, every single update, I'm like, yeah, that is something that is wildly, hotly requested. And even when they come up with new ideas like the shelf, it's like, oh yeah, and for builders, it's really cool. They get a vertical slab. Man, it has to be said, by the way, train stations in, like, most European cities, especially London, are, like, big, fancy buildings. This is a cool building, but it is that there's a lot of weird things happening around me. That's my own version of anxiety. It's like, oh, why is there an alarm going off in the background saying that someone is trespassing? Anyway, though, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and yeah, at this point I am starting to appreciate, as I share another major life milestone with the channel, that, as much as we make fun jokes about it, that there is a certain type of thing that I want to do with this channel in the pursuit of truth and all the other things like that, and I hope that you're enjoying seeing it, and if so, like this video, or favorite, or subscribe, or whatever, because, yeah, I hope you enjoyed my journey up into the rocky Canadian mountains. I'm going to enjoy my next couple of days now, and I'll see you on Tuesday. In the meantime, though, because of the way we've set things up, you should see a video every day from now onwards until Tuesday. And then, yeah, I'll come back from a flight being extremely jet-lagged. Side note, it's like 7 p.m. local time, like 3 a.m. for my brain, but I'm actually doing pretty fine. This is the first time in a while I'm feeling actually pretty chill, which is awesome. Anyway, thank you, goodbye.